Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to TED Talks Ball. I've got a special guest for you here on this Victory Tuesday after the big Cards win. I've got Pete Lucas from Niner Fanatic Podcast. You can find him at PeterLucas8 on Twitter. A real good guy. Gone at it with him out on the timeline and in some DM groups. Highly respect this guy and super excited to have him on the show. Pete, what did I miss? Please tell people where they can find you and whatever else you're up to.
First of all, thank you for the introduction. It was I'm happy to be here, Ted. I think I've been talking to you since I first kind of got on Twitter. It's only been like a couple of years, but yeah, it's Niner Fanatic Podcast, and my schedule's kind of all over the place right now. But for sure, I do pre-games on Sundays now. I usually am on Monday or Tuesday. This week I kind of got thrown out of whack because of the Monday night game. But then I'm also on Ryan Hensley's show, 49 Warriors, every Monday, usually at 8:15, and it's usually my time. But he's on daily at 8 o'clock every week, every day, every week. And then I'm also on Last Man Standing with Rich Keltz, Forever Faithful Pod, Brandon, and Niner Sickness, Beto. So I do that every Wednesday at I believe it's on 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. But really appreciate you having me on today, Ted. And it's really exciting to have to be on after a win, in a resounding win at that.
Yeah, no doubt. It was I figured we would beat the Cards. I said so. I thought so in my article that kind of published midweek, and maybe it was on Thursday. And then I was saying, well, depending on they had a lot of questionable players, and then obviously a lot of them didn't end up playing, other than maybe DeAndre Hopkins. And so, I was probably a little conservative in my score projection, but I was glad to see that, we blew them out. Certainly that there's a lot to go over from the game. So, love to have you give me your impressions of the big win over the Cards.
Man, I think we got to see all the good stuff that we've been begging the 49ers and begging Shanahan to give us for weeks, pretty much the whole season. We've been begging to see the 49ers have an identity, and this was 49er football. I tweeted that out last night, that this was 49er football, that we ran the ball down their throat, to the outside, to the middle. It didn't matter where it was. The jet sweep made a comeback from Debo. We kind of got everything we want. Ayuk went off. Kittle went off. It was literally they looked at all of our tweets. Shanny looked at all of our tweets and said, you know what, let me just give him one. But it was just a great game to watch. I mean, he even got the guys out when the game was out of hand and got Jordan Mason. We had a Jordan Mason sighting. I mean, it wasn't a good sighting, but it was still he got him in the game. Yeah, I don't think there was anything to really complain about in this game.
No, there was a lot to like for sure. Like you said, we had a lot of Kittle, a lot of Debo, a lot of Ayuk. Well, not a lot of Ayuk, but whatever little we had of Ayuk. Yeah, 2 catches, 20 yards, and 2 TDs. Yeah. That was lovely. And then obviously Elijah Mitchell coming in late, CMC starting out strong. Sort of feels like maybe that might be something that we're starting to see more of. That kind of reminded me of 2019, where we had Tevin Coleman to kind of beat the defenses down, and then Raheem Mostert as the change of pace later on in the game. Once they're kind of tired, to just run right by. So that was fun to watch for sure. It's pretty amazing that Jimmy G had 3 straight games with no interceptions. Give me your thoughts on Jimmy G.
I mean, nothing to complain about. I mean, he went three straight games with no interception. He's never done that in his career. I mean, but a lot of people have been saying that he's playing the best football of his career. I mean, I can't disagree with it by now. He's the guy's I mean, he didn't hit every throw that we wanted him to hit, but I mean, nobody's perfect, and especially not Jimmy. And it's just there's just no. He gave us he gave us prime I mean prime grade A prime Jimmy G. That if that was Jimmy G at his best, I feel like, and he had what 4 touchdowns, and he had like 228 I think yards. I mean, it is what it is. Like that, we can't ask for a better showing. Now, hopefully, all we do is get that against some of these better teams, and if we get that kind of Jimmy G, it's going to be kind of hard to beat us down the stretch.
No doubt about it. That was sort of my impression. One of his better games. I'm not willing to say it was better than New Orleans yet because in 2019, just because New Orleans, first of all, it was a hostile crowd. Second of all, he had more yards. He did have the one interception in New Orleans, but he had the 4 TDs. He had it was a tougher defense, I think, the New Orleans defense than what we saw from the Cards last night, and obviously up against going toe to toe. He obviously doesn't play directly against Drew Brees, but Drew Brees was on the other side driving up the score. A lot of it was there was a lot of back and forth. Whereas last night's game, after they went up 3-0, the Cards never had the lead again in last night's game. So just for the back and forth nature and the better offense, Hall of Fame quarterback and Drew Brees, even if he was aging, they were a lot more impressive. That one still sticks out to me as Jimmy G's best game, but this one's right up there in the top three, I would say for sure. I would say that the Cards defense not that stellar. You mentioned we'll probably play some better teams. I think better defenses. They also were facing some injuries. With Byron Murphy Jr. being out, one of their corners. They were missing, I think, Rashard Lawrence, who's one of their better defensive tackles. So they were like a not great defense that was banged up. And then the thing I added in there too was not acclimated to the altitude.
Yes,
there was a lot of talk in the run up to the game last week. Was it a mistake for the Niners to go to Colorado Springs? It supposedly tested. A lot of the players were frustrated by the snow, the cold, playing practicing on AstroTurf, being away from families. Was it worth it? Was it worth it? Well, it sure looked like it was worth it in the second half, especially that fourth quarter when the Cards just pretty much fell apart. There were several.
Like they gave up.
Yeah, especially on that second George Kittle touchdown, where he was running and the guy missed him on the sideline, and then there were 2 or 3 guys waiting sort of at the goal line, and they all just kind of made business decisions and didn't even attempt to tackle him. And that was sort of what I said. I said Lucha George, benefits from business decisions.
Yeah, for sure.
on that TD. But I guess that brings up another good point of. We talked a little bit already about Ayuk, Kittle, and Debo. Actually, I guess we kind of covered that, didn't we? I don't feel like there's too much more.
I mean, Ayuk, I did want to say something about Ayuk, and it's really kind of it's been rough on that guy, because we're in the 49ers are not a team that they're not an aired out team, and he was a first round pick. With that comes it comes expectations, and people have been expecting things to come out of Ayuk for a while now, and I don't think that Jimmy was necessarily the right quarterback to get those things out of him, and I think that everybody kind of recognized that, and that's why everybody was so excited about Trey Lance this year. But it's to see him kind of really, he's just breaking off everybody. He's routing up every single person that you put in front of him, and to see him just kind of stay the course. He's not going to get a ton of touches, but just to constantly be ready. I think that that's another step in his development. Is that you're just going to have to wait for your time to come, and yeah, it's because you've got all these weapons on this team, but yeah, Ayuk he looked. I mean, you couldn't. He almost looked like Debo at a certain point, because you just couldn't tackle him. The one, he's gonna make somebody miss, and I think that's my point. But yeah, he is. I think that he's growing right before our eyes.
No doubt. And that move he put on that first touchdown,
Mm,
there was just nobody in the frame
yeah,
after he made that move, and they finally kind of got back into the frame for the catch, but not close enough to hit him or stop it. So,
yeah,
yeah, super impressed by Ayuk, and like I really wanted to see him with Trey Lance because Trey can throw deep and outside the numbers
mhm,
a lot more skill than Jimmy G can. And also Trey's ability to run just will take away coverage from all our weapons.
yeah.
Um, but hopefully, sooner rather than later. I mean, I guess that's an interesting point. I didn't really put that up as like a banner or a topic. But do you think Trey Lance might be back later this season, playoffs at all?
Not the way Jimmy's playing. Like you, you can't just take away. Kyle is a big hot hand guy. Like he always talks about the hot hand, and I don't think that you can take the ball out of Jimmy's hands right now. It's I mean he's not giving you a reason to, and it's I think this offense has finally hit its stride yesterday. And granted, it's the Cardinals, but with the 49ers have been playing bad teams a lot of bad teams this season, and they hadn't been able to put it together. Last night they were able to put it together, and Jimmy's credit, he hasn't really played bad all season. I think he only has 4 picks for the season. I think that's what I read.
I think
Like
that's right. I think he's
it's
15 TDs and 4 interceptions.
I mean, that's crazy good, and he's still throwing like what 67 or 65%, whatever it is. Like it's that's the Jimmy that we've been looking for. Now he's throwing the ball downfield, even if he hits it or not. Like it doesn't really matter. Just the fact that he's making the attempt is going to keep these defenses on their toes. And more importantly, and I didn't think of this at the time of the trade, but CMC coming on the team when he did and giving and forcing it really forced Kyle to put those outlet passes for the running back into the system. And now Jimmy's looking for him on when the play breaks down, which is a huge opening. Like I mean, it's a huge thing for Jimmy. I just think that you really saw it in yesterday's game, is that having that outlet to go and not making him get happy feet, not feeling the need to force it into the middle. I think that was huge. And if we can get this version of Jimmy, it may be a long day for a lot of teams. That's all I'm going to say about it.
No doubt about it. Yeah. And now, okay, so clearly you don't think we should bring Lance back as a starter as long as Jimmy continues to play well.
Yeah.
But what if we bring him back as a backup in case
Yeah.
Jimmy gets injured?
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
do you see that happening? Okay.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Like he should be, if he's healthy and he's ready to go, he should at least be backing Jimmy up. And I mean, we really kind of want him to get to see, because I don't feel like he really got the full experience of being a backup last season, playing behind bad Jimmy last season. And now he's sitting behind. He has a chance to sit behind this version of Jimmy and kind of see those passing it to the running backs, like the getting rid of the ball, and like he's getting to see what good quarterbacking looks like, and it feels ridiculously weird for me to say that when we're talking about Jimmy. But I mean, you got to give the guy credit. He's playing well, and I don't think you can just pull the plug on him.
No, no doubt. And I do have to give him credit. I'm pretty well known as a Jimmy G hater out on the timeline. And so if I'm gonna be negative about him, then I have to obviously admit when he has good games, good performances, and he's been good. Like you said, 3 games in a row with no interceptions, and I would say even to cap that off would be even the last 2 games, no interception worthy balls, because he's definitely had plenty that he threw, but the defense just dropped him. Against the Chargers and the Cardinals, he wasn't even throwing to the defense at all for them to drop. So that impresses me quite a bit. That's another one where people said, "Oh, dropped interceptions don't count." And I'm like, well, to me they do. And
Yeah.
so if they count negatively when they do happen, I have to give him props when they don't happen. So congratulations,
Yeah.
Jimmy, on no dropped interceptions.
They may
as
not
well
count
as
as
no
an
interceptions.
interception, but they count against my heart rate. and like
Yes, my blood pressure,
you know,
my depression,
yeah.
yeah, all that stuff. No doubt about it. Um, so let's talk a little about the defense. Obviously, looked pretty good, but love to get your impressions there.
Yeah, I mean, it looked a little shaky in the beginning, but I think we've seen this the last couple of games. It's almost like D'Amico is like feeling out his opponent at this point and letting them get yards in the beginning, and then they kind of tighten up when it get. And I think that that's a lot of defenses this year in the NFL. Period. They're allowing teams to get yards, and then they're tightening up in the red zone. Uh, but but yeah, I that's what I thought was happening in the beginning. I thought that uh, Colt McCoy, if nothing else, he is a typical pocket passer, in that he's going to try and get the ball out quick. He's not going to try and do too much. And that's what got him going early. That screens were killing us in the beginning, but then come second half they got Nathan. Like, I mean, it was just they just shut the water off, and it looked the defense looked great. I would say, I know that it's garbage time, but I was super stoked to see Womack get some time and show and immediately make an impact as soon as he got in, because they immediately targeted him, and he was like, "Okay, I mean, you're going to target me. You better be ready for these hands." And like it's and I was like, he could, because he could have picked six that one, but yeah, I think the whole defense as a whole, the defensive line played out of its mind. They're great against the run. I think they had one long run. I think Connor had a 14-yarder, but for the most part, I think the defense played really well. D'Amico schemed it up really well in this game.
No doubt about it. Yeah, the D line played great. Givens really showed up. He had that tackle for a loss. He had the big sack, or it looked like he was just shot out of a cannon straight up the middle. Bosa obviously had his little sack at the end of the first half. Not little sack, but it was sort of like Colt tried to like pull a Kyler and probably should have thrown the ball away rather than
The
try to
best sack was that one. It was the Givens. Just goes
yeah.
like, I mean, the guy just whiffed on the block, and I mean, right into McCoy's chest. That was great.
It was, and it was also great because he didn't even go to the ground at all. So there's no way you could say that he went with full body weight because he didn't even go down. So, like,
Yeah.
totally take that out, especially with like the way that I tweeted out during the game, like Colt McCoy flopped is like worthy of World
Yeah.
Cup.
Yeah,
Because
that was
he definitely flopped on that one Dre Greenlaw one where he dove head first and Greenlaw just kind of like stopped him on the ground and he just kind of like flew back and
yeah.
even Troy Aikman kind of
Both the
said
ones
like he's like, wow, his head really snapped back there. I wonder what happened. And he was like joking because he knew exactly what had happened. And he was like, gosh, I wonder what happened to Colt McCoy that his head would just snap back like that.
Yeah,
You
the
know,
Bosa one too.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
He pulled up and he barely chest bumped him, and he just,
yeah.
yeah, it was terrible.
It's ridiculous, and they should give penalties for that. Honestly,
Yeah,
like that kind of flopping, that's for soccer, not football.
yeah,
So
and
I mean,
basketball.
yeah, and basketball, but at least in basketball they give penalties for it. So
Do they?
I mean, yeah, I mean. Not as much as they should, but
Yeah,
it's there. It does happen. So,
yeah.
yeah, no doubt about it. So what else? So we talked a little bit about Elijah and CMC. Was there more you wanted to go into about those two?
I mean, those they look like a seasoned tandem. Like, they've been playing. Like, Kyle is just used to using those guys as a tandem for a while now. Like, it's crazy. It was only their second game together, but it was a little bit. Even though Elijah Mitchell's not that big of a guy, like, it was a little bit of thunder and lightning, and it was great to see us attack the edges again. And that's really what I'd love to see, is that them trying to use that outside zone again, and then with that in turn getting Debo on the jet sweep. I thought that was huge. But yeah, I thought Elijah Mitchell looks great since he came back, and and then CMC is going to give you all the things that Elijah Mitchell really. I mean, not that I don't. It's not that I don't think that Elijah Mitchell can't give you the things that CMC does, but CMC is just so instinctive with his, and he's such a good route runner that and a good receiver out of the backfield that it's yeah, you just really have to pick your poison. I'd like to see them do some more two back sets with them, but I mean I can't be mad at what they're doing right now with them.
Yeah, no, I mean it's super exciting to see. CMC, he is so great, running, catching, blocking, doing it all. He's so smart, so versatile. Obviously filled in really well in the Rams game when Debo was out, was our go-to person. And now Debo's starting, I think, to work himself back into shape. We're starting to see. I think he had 95 yards in the TD or 94 yards in the TD in this game, so that's exciting. I definitely want to call out Melissa Rebel. She's here
Oh no,
in the
Melissa.
audience. She says she's a proud 10 hater here. She's been here for a while, and I feel bad. Once again, I'm late getting to the comments. So that's one of my big areas that needs improvement as a host on these shows. But she also said CMC over Sanders trade, in my
Oh
opinion.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think so
I would
too.
agree. I would
I mean, they're
agree.
both big. They're both big, but CMC is just he's so versatile, and Sanders, as good as he was a little bit towards the end
Yeah,
of
long in
his
the tooth.
yeah. He still had some good production afterwards, and he was helpful for our young receivers for sure. But just it's hard to compare the two as overall weapons. Um,
Shout out to Melissa too because she's in all of our shows. Like she goes and watches all the content creators. So shout out to Melissa. She is a Niner lover to like at the heart. So
yeah, and she does a lot of shows too. So
yeah,
yeah, she's amazing. No doubt about it. I don't know where she gets the time. It's awesome.
yeah.
What else did she say here? Peter, thoughts on the better game? All three Yaks had a TD Monday versus Cards last year versus the Jags.
Ooh, that's a good one. Uh, I would still say I think I'm gonna say this year just because it might be a little bit of recency bias, but I just we have been begging this team to for some offense and for it to finally like just turn the water faucet all the way up out of nowhere like is it was just a better feeling. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like it was weird. It was just I was so happy to see that Shanny uh, didn't lose it. Like he still knows the plays are still there. It's just good to know that he can still call those plays, and it doesn't have to look like it had been looking for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm definitely was happier with this win than beating the Jags, especially since like Jimmy had that missed throw to one of the running backs coming across the end zone. It might have been Jeff Wilson Jr. Or it might have
Oh
been I
yeah, I
don't know,
remember that one.
wasn't Mostert. I'm not sure who it was, but that was frustrating for me. And there were some other mistakes in that game too, as far as Jalen Moore and whatnot. So this game definitely felt better. No sacks or anything like that last night. It's pretty
That's
huge.
something. And I know I think we're going to talk about the O line later, but this offensive line, it's like night and day compared to last season for as far as pass protection goes. Like we used to complain about this offensive line for pass protection all the time, and these guys have done a. I would say they did. They have done an outstanding job protecting Jimmy, and because they kept it. I mean, he didn't get sacked yesterday, right?
No,
Yeah, like I don't even think he got hit.
no, I
Yeah,
don't think so
so
either.
yeah, it's crazy,
No,
crazy.
it was amazing. I saw a tweet today that I think Akash tweeted it out that PFF hasn't credited uh, Trent Williams, uh, Aaron Banks, Brendel, or Burford with a sack so far this season. So they must all be on Brunskill and McGlinchey and McKivitz,
Yeah, that sounds
and
about
maybe
right.
Jalen Moore. But yeah, pretty crazy. Yeah, no, the O line's been doing really well. I mean, obviously, McGlinchey's had his struggles, but maybe he's getting healthy for coming back from that strained calf. I do think also the Cards D line is a little bit anemic. They have kind of like an aging J.J. Watt as
Hmm.
their main guy, and he really doesn't have much help on that D line
Yeah.
currently. So
What do
it'll
you
be
think about?
interesting.
I'm going to turn it around on you, Ted. Like, what do you think? What do you think of the whole tipping? Because I was looking for it the whole game, like Trent Williams tipping his plays. Like,
The
what
one
did you think
time
of
I
it?
saw it, he tipped it.
Yeah,
He was, he had his leg back, and we threw a screen out to Devo in the right flat. Um, I wasn't paying super close attention, I'll be honest. But like, what do I think of it? I mean, I think do I think it's a big thing? Probably not. There's a lot of people I respect who don't think it's a big thing.
hmm,
But do I think it's nothing? No, I don't think it's nothing either. I think
yeah,
there's something to it. And people, there's this argument like, well, oh, well, it's a run or a pass. Well, good luck stopping Trent Williams or getting through him anyway. And it's like, yeah, but it's not just Trent Williams,
yeah.
right?
He ain't the only
It's
one
the
on the line.
whole line, and it's the whole like, I don't know, to me in the Chargers game when Jimmy faked the handoff and tried to do play action, and whoever it was, it might have been Khalil Mack, just didn't even bite on the play fake at all and smashed Jimmy for a 10-yard sack,
Mm,
and it killed the drive. I thought maybe that might have been one where Trent tipped it.
I mean, yeah, it
That's
could
for me.
be. I just looked at it like I get it. I get it that why Trent would be kind of annoyed by by even the question, somebody questioning his play, because he's so good. Like, but I don't know. I mean, I'm with you. I think that it's got to be something. If it was nothing, the offensive line coach would have came out and said there was nothing, but he didn't. He said no, it's definitely something that we need to fix and we need to work on. So, and kudos to Jesse, kudos to Grant for asking that question to the to that offensive line coach about it. And it's just, I mean, I understand both sides. I get it. Like, but at the same time, I just think that any advantage you give to the other side is something that doesn't need to happen. Like, you need to fix whatever advantages you're given.
Absolutely, it's a game of inches, and you're giving up more than inches. I think by doing that, I think it helps key the defense. And yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not like the biggest deal, but I've been doing a bunch of these shows, and we've been talking about why isn't this offense working with all these great weapons. I mean, I think we have the best weapons group in the NFL.
In the
Maybe
NFL.
not, yeah, maybe not the best single at any position, but with Debo and Ayuk and Kittle and Elijah Mitchell and CMC and Juszczyk, that's a hell of a group of offensive weapons and so much versatility, when we're mixing up these formations. And, my hope is that not only do we correct the issue, but now that we maybe start, using it to our advantage where Trent
Hmm.
Williams has the foot back like a pass set, and then we just go ahead and run the ball instead where where we're taking advantage of people thinking that they're too smart and use it against them. So that
For
would be
sure.
my hope.
Yeah,
That
for
would be
sure. I
my
thought
hope
I
for
saw
sure.
somebody on Twitter saying that he was doing that yesterday, like for a couple of plays. I didn't really notice it myself, but yeah, I thought I saw that on Twitter yesterday, but I might have been wrong.
Yeah, no, it's pretty wild situation. A lot of different opinions on it. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Further
I
along here
don't
through the
understand why
season.
it's such a polarizing topic, though. I'll be honest with you, like and why people are so in their feelings about it. We're just talking about football, and it's something that Jesse noticed, to his credit, because he watched enough film to notice that it was happening over and over and over again. I mean, why are people mad about it? Like, who
Well,
cares?
I think some people are like, oh well, now you just told everybody, like, oh, would have, like, as if it would have been fine and no one else would have noticed.
Yeah,
Like these
it's like Jesse's the
professionals
only one that
wouldn't have
watches
figured.
tape.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's some of that. I think there's some of like, people are like, oh, Jesse's with Grant. he's a Cone clone.
Yeah.
So I don't like Grant, so I don't like what Jesse says. I think there's some of that. And I think, I think there's just I think the content creator community maybe is a little bit cliquey, and
Yeah.
so there's one group, supports each other, and then they kind of poo poo on the other group,
Yeah.
So I
That's
think
true.
there's some of that too, and then obviously the national media really took it up. I saw that.
Which that was crazy. I didn't think that because usually national media kind of like to your point poo poos us content creators down here, and like for them to take one of our topics and and try to run with it, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, Mitchell Schwartz talked about it,
Yeah.
whichever Schwartz, the older Schwartz. Um,
Troy Aikman
yeah,
mentioned it.
Emmanuel Acho talked
Yeah.
about it. I mean, it was all over a lot. Why am I blanking on the guy, the ex kicker, who has Aaron
Bolt.
Rodgers on all the time?
I know who you're talking about, but I can't think of his name either right now. But yeah, I mean, Troy
Pat
Aikman mentioned it on the
McAfee,
podcast.
Pat
Yeah,
McAfee show. Yeah, it was all over the place.
I would
So
say Pat McAfee though he does a pretty decent job of keeping his ear to the content creator street, if that makes any sense.
it does.
He keeps his ears to the street, and he like listens to. And I mean, if any of these guys would were smart, they would be listening to what people are talking about on Twitter and what they're talking about on YouTube. I mean, that's free they're doing the legwork for you. All you got to do, like, you have a national stage. It's yeah, it amazes me that it doesn't happen more often.
No doubt about it. Yeah, I just always try to like keep personal stuff aside and just go with what I think is real and the truth. And so I had to give Jesse credit. I was just like,
Yeah,
hey, Jesse,
Jesse's on.
I think Jesse nailed it. I DM'd him and I was like, hey, I've done like 15 shows in like 16 days here, and like the best we could come up with was Jimmy G and McGlinchey for why the song, beyond the usual stuff. There's obviously, the turnovers, there's the penalties, there's the drops,
Yeah.
but beyond that, there seemed like there was something more
Kyle.
holding us back. Yeah, yeah, Kyle. I'm a Shanna fan, so I try not but clearly, yeah,
Yeah.
everybody needs to improve when we're not doing well. But and I was like, hey, I think you're really onto something here. I think you
Yeah.
really nailed something, and congrats on finding that, having the eye to do it and going forward with it. And it's too bad that a lot of people, and I think there's a different group of people that are poo-pooing it too. There's just the people that are like, oh, anyone who does well, I'm gonna hate on them, right? That's
Yeah.
just the kind of trolly
You're always
type
gonna have
people.
you're always gonna have that.
Yeah, haters that maybe didn't hate him before, but now they hate him because he had a viral tweet and it got all that attention. And a lot of people, there's so many people that feel like, oh, if I help you, it's somehow hurting me, and it's quite the opposite. I feel like, I like helping people, and it doesn't hurt me at all to help anyone else. So,
that's how I
I
feel
just
about it.
I don't understand that mentality at all.
When we were coming, when I first started this, what, about a year ago, it seemed like everyone was so welcoming, and in the last couple of months, it's getting a little testy, and people are kind of fighting for their spot. But I've always looked at it like this: you're as good as your content. Like, that's really what it is. And it comes down to, you can be mad about it, but if this man has better content, you can't be mad at him for having better content. Like, it is what it is. You get better.
Yeah, do better.
Do your homework and get better. Like, period. Because the work shines through, and you can tell the people that work at it from the people that don't. And it's I'm and not to poo-poo anybody, because I think that there are just so many great content creators out there that and I've seen people would do no work and just be great at it. Who
Must be
knows?
nice.
Yeah,
Must
I
be
tell you,
nice.
some people are just talent, like, just gifted gab. They're just
Yeah.
talented. But yeah, it is what it is. I love all my. I have somewhat of a relationship with so many different content creators that I don't talk down about anybody. Like I love all my guys and girls.
Nice. Yeah, no, there's so many great people. They've been so helpful to me. I just couldn't be happier with all the support I've gotten and, guests to come on shows and just help with tips of what to do better, how to improve. Because there's obviously a lot to learn, especially when we're first starting out, no doubt about
For
it.
sure.
And but probably all the way along, I'm one of those people. I like to kind of learn something new every day,
Yep.
ideally. So
I
if
am.
it's a good day, cool. So it feels like we've gone through a lot of the card stuff. Should we talk a little Saints prediction for the Saints game this
Yeah,
Sunday?
for sure. I think that they're in a good position because I don't think the Saints have a good offense. And it's this defense has been. If Kyle is going to come out with that type of a game plan and put some points on the board, it's. I don't think that the Saints can keep up with that. Now, I would like to say that the 49ers have found their identity. This is what the 49ers should look like, and this is what it's going to look like going forward. But I think we've seen a little bit of inconsistency from the game plan from a game plan perspective. So I would hope that this is the game plan going forward. But we shall see. But I'm not worried about our defense at all against these guys. I think that this team, I mean, they got Alvin Kamara, but you're not running the ball against the 49ers. It's just not going to happen. So it's going to have to be those wide receivers that beat us. And I don't think that the Saints have what it takes.
Yeah, Andy Dalton's not exactly that threatening. I feel like Olave is pretty good, but I haven't been
He's
following
a
close
beast.
enough. Yeah, he is. Okay, yeah. So he worries me, and I feel like there's a tight end, a kind of no-name tight end that they
Yeah,
have who's been doing pretty well.
Jawan Johnson is his name.
That sounds
I,
right.
I picked him up in fantasy, and he killed it for me this weekend. And yeah, he's very athletic. He's getting open, and that's and I mean that's the tight end is the quarterback's best friend, right? So
Yeah, and Kamara just scares me just because he's a lot like CMC.
mm,
He's such a threat catching the ball out of the backfield. But yeah, no, our defense is playing well. This Saints defense, I thought they would be a little bit better coming into this season. I thought they'd be up there with our defense, but for whatever reason, they haven't quite hit their stride or lived up to their potential, if you will. But and also, they're not that great outside of the dome typically. So I think being at Levi's should be a big advantage for us. But we'll see. We'll see what happens this week. I'm definitely leaning towards us getting another W. But now it's a short week for us. We're coming off a big emotional win.
that's true.
That could definitely lead to a letdown. It's funny. I was at my buddy's house watching the game last night, and he said, talk to your guests tomorrow about the short week and the letdown. And I was like, okay, John, I'll be sure and do that. And then as I'm driving home, I get a text from him, and there's Shanny in the post game presser, verbatim saying, short week, big letdown and after an emotional win. I'm like, wow. And I was like, hey, when are you coming on the show? I was like, because I had actually talked to him, back when I was first kicking around the idea of starting a YouTube channel. And I was like, hey, maybe you should be my co-host. And he's probably too busy to come on every week, but
Yeah.
he's got a lot of good insights, and my definitely gonna have to get that going for sure. He has season tickets, so I watch a lot of the away games at his place, and then he takes me to a few of the home games at Levi's. So,
Yeah.
old buddy of
Yeah.
mine from college days. But what else? So we're both in agreement. We should win the Saints game.
That's an
However,
interesting. I did want to mention it, piggyback off of your point about the short week, because remember what happened last year. We had a winnable game. It was a short week. We had a winnable game against Tennessee, and we didn't get it. And
no.
we should have had that game. And so it's not a foregone conclusion. I think that the Saints.
Uh,
I don't think the Saints are as good as that Tennessee team was, but at
no.
the same time, it is a short week, and coming high off of that, there had to be a ton of emotion going on in that game with when they finally erupt with that many points and all that scoring. Yeah, so I mean, hopefully they didn't. Hopefully they didn't blow their. They didn't use up all the emotion ready for this next game.
Yeah, no doubt about
I
it. In
almost
fact,
said
the
it.
yeah, I know that's fine. Whatever. My buddy, I was just referencing, John, was actually he did travel to Nashville for that game last year, the Titans game, and I think a lot of people were expecting a win because of how poorly they had played prior to us. But then they got back AJ Brown and Julio Jones both for that game. It made a huge boost to them, especially late in the game. And I think I had said like Aziz Al Shire coming back was what tipped me over the scale to the Niners. Me predicting that the Niners would win the game because I thought it would be close with those two receivers coming back.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, who's out on the final drive where they kicked the game winning field goal? Aziz Al Shire was out, and so I was like, God damn it! I hate when I'm right sometimes. But
Linebackers are playing out of their mind right now. Like Greenlaw has
sure
been
are.
great.
He has. I was worried when he was holding his wrist, but even by the time he was coming off the field, it looked like he wasn't. It wasn't hanging. It looked like it looked like it was probably okay. I tweeted that because I was like Greenlaw wrist, and then I was like, it looks okay when he came off the field. So they're saying no injuries again, which is another amazing thing. Like, not only no injuries, at Levi's South versus the Chargers, but oh no, wait, Chargers was at home.
Yeah, but you
We had a
saw.
few injuries, but we've been good with injuries lately, though. I mean, I feel like
Did you
there was
notice
none
how
against the
great that field
Rams
was?
at Levi South.
Did you notice how great that field was? It looked really nice. Like like the grass.
In
It
Mexico
was
City,
yeah,
Estadio
it was
Azteca.
crazy. It looked crazy good. Like usually you get a lot of you see the field get chewed up throughout the game, but that field just and I mean it's grass, but it just felt like it wasn't going anywhere. Like there wasn't the grass just looked perfect, and it's yeah that could have been a thing too. Like I'm not sure as to the amount of injuries, but yeah, I don't know.
No, it's been pretty amazing the last few weeks. So let's knock on wood that that can
Back on
continue.
particle board.
There you go. So we're pretty much in agreement about the Saints. Should be a win. I mean, obviously, you never know any given Sunday and those other factors, but I think we're in agreement there. So, what about the rest of the season? Like as we look through, I have second half predictions on here, but I guess it's almost more like the last third of the season at this point, with 7 games left. What are some trouble spots you see coming up, and what do you think our overall record will look like when it's all said and done?
I still think we're going to end up with 10 wins. I think there's a couple of games, the Dolphins game and that the Commanders game is kind of looking iffy to me right now. Commanders are playing great. Like I mean great, I guess maybe it might be a little strong, but they've got a really good defense. And I just wonder about that team. The Seahawks, for whatever reason, the Seahawks just do not scare me. I don't care how many points they put up against everybody else. Like they just do not scare me at all. But but that Dolphins game, I just really it'll be if I'm interested to see how the two coaches kind of match up and can does Mike McDaniel have all the secrets against Shanny? Like I'm just interested to see the matchup, and but I wouldn't count that as I wouldn't guarantee that as a win. Like, but yeah, that one in the Commanders game is the two that I'm looking at to be possible losses, and then you got the one against the Buccaneers. I don't think that the Buccaneers are going to have a good day against this 49er team. I think that as a matchup, I think that we're a really bad matchup for them because we just rushed with 4. And as we all know, that is Brady's kryptonite. Like so, yeah. I like, but yeah, I think 10 wins is almost. I don't want to say guarantee. Like, but but I'm pretty close,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't be surprised at 11.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think we've got sort of the same games circled. I don't know if you, maybe I missed it, if you mentioned Seattle on the short week in Seattle. The Seahawks,
I
that's one that
mentioned them.
concerns me.
I don't think I'm not scared of the Seattle at all.
Huh?
I don't know what it is about them like that just I mean their main offense is running the ball,
Yeah.
and that is a recipe for disaster against the 49ers.
Yeah. No, and no Russ, and he's the one who always seemed to pull
Mm-hmm.
out the magic, the late game magic tricks to put a dagger in our heart. Yeah, that's interesting. They're definitely one I see as an issue just because it's a short weekend, it's travel, and we've lost so many games in Seattle. I think the only one I can remember winning was in 2019. But yeah, I'm not a total believer in Geno, but I do think that Kenneth Walker, running back's pretty good and
Mm-hmm.
powerful. I think that the Tariq Woolen is a really good corner that they drafted.
Kid's a
They're
monster.
saying they're saying like he's like a fast Richard Sherman or something like
Yeah,
that. So,
yeah, he's a monster. Like what
and
is
then
that?
they already had DK and Tyler Lockett who are good, and then they got three solid tight ends with Disley and Parkinson and Fant,
Mm-hmm.
who are all real tight ends. They all block and they all catch. So
Yeah,
none of them are like Kittle, but having three, it gives you an advantage to have three guys that can do everything. So I have a healthy respect for them, especially just for the fact that we're tied with them record wise. But
mm-hmm.
yeah, Commanders definitely they're playing really well, and they're getting Chase Young back probably sooner than later.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bucks, they scare me a little bit just because they have a good front seven, a good run defense.
Yeah,
So while our defense is a bad matchup for them, I think their defense is kind of a bad matchup for us. Although I guess if we keep going like last night, we passed a lot more than we ran last night.
yeah,
So maybe that's the roadmap. Maybe that is the new identity moving forward. I just hope Jimmy can keep it up against good defenses because the Bucks definitely have a good defense.
yeah.
So that'll be interesting. And post divorce, Tom Brady is 2-0. So
What
he did
what
us
do
some
you
favors, right? Beating the Rams and beating the Seahawks. That was huge for us.
For real. Like, what do you think of this new? I don't know if it's new or per se, but what do you think of the narrative of that Brian Greasy is the one that's unlocked Jimmy? Because I've been hearing rumblings about that. Like, is that
Yeah.
people just kind of grasping for straws as to why Jimmy's playing better, or do you think that might be an actual thing?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you right now, for purely selfish reasons, I'm going to say yes because I was one of the people when everybody was, pooping on him when we hired him. I was like, well, the guy played, and and even though he wasn't a great quarterback, his dad was, and
Yeah,
he did play in the pros, and that's a lot more than Scangarello can say, or Scangarello, or however you pronounce it.
that's true.
So, yeah, so I liked the hire when we made it, and so I'm hoping that is the case. Who knows? I'm not there. I don't know, but I mean that's one of the few explanations. I will say, like a lot of it really just seemed to click as soon as we got CMC, though.
Yeah,
And that was there were a lot of games that Brian Greasy was coaching them where I didn't think he looked that
yeah.
great. And all of a sudden we get CMC, and all of a sudden he's going through his progressions because he knows at the end there's a pot
He's
of
got an
gold.
outlet. Yeah, he's
He's
got an
got an
outlet.
outlet, and you got to do it in the right progression and at the right times. You can't just skip to your last progression. So um, maybe I'll give Co credit, right? I'll give Greasy half the credit, and roughly, and half the credit to CMC,
Yeah.
who
Yeah, I feel
who
you.
thinks like a QB, so he gets open for his key. He knows where the soft spots are to be, so that Jimmy can throw him the ball without a lot of traffic around.
Yeah, I just look at it as Brian, like, and I saw this on Twitter the other day. Somebody said that this looks like 2017 Jimmy, and I think it's multifactorial. Like, I think you got Brian Greasy, who might be like a fresh voice in the locker room. Then you got CMC, who is just the ultimate the ultimate outlet, like and the last progression, and then you've also got I just and I completely lost it. Like I had another one, but there's I think it's multifactorial as far as Jimmy goes. Like it's just
Debo.
well, Debo, because Debo had been struggling. They made a
Yeah.
concerted effort to get him the ball yesterday, like, but he had been struggling with
He
drops.
had checked down some to Jennings in the Chargers
Yeah,
game.
so it's weird because Jimmy doesn't like to check down usually. Like I know
No,
they call him check down Charlie, but he really doesn't. He doesn't like to
no,
check down. He likes to
or
force the
throw
ball
it
away.
away. And he's
Yeah,
done that 2 games in a row. He threw one away last night, and he threw one away against the Chargers. I was like, "Yay!"
yeah,
I mean,
it's
everything
crazy.
else he did well. Like that was one of the things that excited me the
Oh,
most.
that's what it was. It's his contract situation. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, that might be in the back of his mind too, but I think that might be an aspect where Brian Greasy kind of helps him along. Is that hey, you're going into a contract. We want to make sure you get the most, but this is where you need to change your mentality. Like it's the and maybe he tells him the importance of throwing the ball away and getting the ball to your outlet guys. Like that it absolutely could be. Do we know? No. Like nobody really knows unless they're in the locker room, and I haven't heard anybody say anything to that extent yet. But who knows? There's something different. There's something different.
yeah.
I don't care if it's just the protein shake that he has in the morning. Just keep playing the way you're playing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Fingers crossed. I mean, I'll be honest. I have my doubts. I feel like his best games have come against defenses that were missing at least one cornerback or more, or sometimes two cornerbacks or two safeties and a corner, or there's or just weren't very good to begin with. So I do have my doubts about it continuing at this pace, but I do think I see more of 2017. Obviously in 2017 he had more interceptions, but his weapons weren't nearly as good. So I think if you take 2017 Jimmy and put him with these weapons, I think you're going to see production about like this. Instead of 7 TDs and 5 interceptions, we're looking at 15 and 4. I think I think that makes sense, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like his best weapon was Goodwin, right? Marquise Goodwin
Oh,
in
Marquise
27, right? Wasn't it? And Trent
2017, yeah.
Taylor.
Trent
And
Taylor, Marquise Goodwin, and I think Bourne was still on the squad, right?
yeah, oh yeah.
Um,
Well, I don't know if he got here yet. Actually, in 2017, but
I think he was on the practice squad, and I think he
okay,
made
could
an
be.
appearance a couple of times. But I'm not. Yeah, don't quote
And
me on that.
our running back from Ohio State too. I'm blanking on his name. The big
Oh,
guy,
Carlos Hyde.
Carlos Hyde. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was an interesting crew.
yeah.
Uh, and then rookie George Kittle, who started to come on towards the end. Then,
I mean,
so
yeah, yeah. He
yeah,
was
but
great. Oh,
nothing like now.
yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, what about 2023 free agents? I guess we can start with one who was going to be a free agent, but we traded. That was Jeff Wilson Jr.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the trade?
I thought it was. I mean, I thought it was the writing was on the wall, like because it wasn't fair. I knew that the 49ers it wasn't fair to Jeff Wilson because he had been like kind of carrying all the duties, and now all of a sudden you bring CMC in, and now he doesn't get any touches, and then you're gonna get Elijah Mitchell back, and he was gonna get buried. And then nobody would have known who he was. He's doing outstanding for Miami, and it's so I mean, I'm happy for Jeff Wilson that he's getting a chance to shine and getting a chance to be a partner with Mostert again and be like that kind of lead back because I mean, as much as I've said on my show that he's a bunch of mid, because I still think that he's not the most athletic, he's not the fastest, but the guy he has a great mentality, great. I think he's a really good running back. He's a solid running back, and I'm hoping that he does get paid because it's really hard for running backs to get paid in this business. So I'm hoping that he gets the money that he deserves.
No doubt about it. Yeah, I mean, I think this will really help him to do that. He wanted to be traded, or at least wanted more touches that we weren't going to be able to give him.
Yeah, there's no
So
way.
we did right by the player. We got a 5th round pick, which is great
Which is
compensation for.
crazy.
Yeah,
Like I don't think people
the
talk about
crazy.
that enough. Like that how crazy it was to get a 5th round pick when James Robinson went for a 6th.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I think part of it was they knew he was a fit, right? Because it's the same
Yeah,
system. So I think that's part of it. Um, and then yes, we got the fifth round pick. Like you said, he's not really that outstanding in any given way. He definitely had some ball security issues. He definitely, if we were only thing that scares me about the trade is if CMC and Elijah Mitchell were to get injured. But no guarantees that Jeff Wilson's going to stay healthy either. He's definitely had his
yeah,
fair share of injuries.
for sure.
It was interesting that he's a UDFA. We got the fifth. We also did that with Breida, and they both went to the Dolphins for a fifth. That makes it really interesting. But yeah, I think it's a win-win. I think they get a good back that they know is going to fit. We did right by the player. We got a fifth. Also, I think goodwill. If there wasn't already a bunch between McDaniel and Shanahan, which I think there probably is, but even more chance that if they have a player they're looking to move, that they might give us first right of refusal or a better deal on in the future. So hopefully that comes back to help us at a later date. But yeah, I mean, I'm not like wild about getting rid of him because was really productive for us, but more positive than negative for sure.
Yeah.
And then what about other 2023 free agents? There's quite a
So
few big names on there,
24
but
free agents from my count, and
yeah. So like there's for me like number one first and foremost is like pick one. Charles Omenihu or Samson Ebicom because I don't think we keep both.
no, I think if they're smart, they'll keep Menahu. Like that guy because of his versatility and he can play outside or inside. He's somebody mentioned on one of their podcasts the other day, and I wish I remembered who it was so I could give them credit. But they said that he's more of an Eric Armstead type. He's a little bit smaller of an Eric Armstead, and like because he can play that outside, inside, and except I think he's a little bit better of a pass rusher than Eric Armstead, and it's I'm a big Amenahu fan. Like I think that guy has really come into his own under Chris Kasarik, but I only think that they keep him if he's not too expensive. If the bidding starts getting up there, they're not going to pay him. They're not going to pay him. He's not going to get a bag. Like
Mm-hmm.
so, Ebicom, I definitely don't think that there is going to stay. I think he's going to want to get paid, and from the time, and hopefully he's healthy enough to get paid. Um, but I mean, it would work out for the 49ers if he didn't. Like if he kind of was a little wishy washy, and he ends up coming in for another 1 year deal and gets just a little bit less than what he's making now. But I mean, I'm looking at Aziz. Jimmy Ward is an interesting name just because he's really hasn't had a chance to really showcase. He had a pretty decent game this last game, but he hasn't really had a chance to really showcase anything to justify giving him money for another team to give him money. And and then you've got, I mean, Tashawn Gibson. I mean that the Ward and Gibson mixture there is really interesting to me because Tashawn Gibson has been playing really good. So to the point to where they don't want to take him out. But there's just so many names on this and in these free agents that yeah, I'm interested. I mean, Brendel's on there. Uh, you got Kerry Hyder, of course, he was on a 1 year deal. McGlinchey, everybody wants to talk about McGlinchey, but I don't think that he's coming back unless it's at a ridiculously discounted rate. And other than that, I mean, Kevin Givens is another name to watch on there. So I mean, they got some names on there, and Givens, I think, is playing himself into a contract from somebody. So yeah, I don't know. What about you? Who do you think? Who pops out to you?
I'm with you on all those. I think we made our choice when we signed Dre to the extension. I think Aziz will go. I think we'll keep Amenahu if we can. But like you said, now that Ebicom's had some injuries, that might lower his price. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. I think we'll do right by Emmanuel Mosley's one you didn't mention. I think Jimmy Ward will be gone. I think he wants to test the market, and even if he doesn't get what he's getting, he'll get more than we want to pay him when Gibson is so much less expensive,
Yeah,
or at least seems like he is. We'll see what his price may go up too with how well he's
yeah,
played.
that's
Yeah, McGlinchey only with a pay cut, and even then, I'd just like to kind of move on and make a clean break there.
that's my thing too. But you know how
Hmm.
Kyle is.
Yeah, I do. And he's not terrible. He just only bad when you need in the most important moments. It
Yeah.
seems like, right? So that's
Yeah,
frustrating.
it's super frustrating. Like I mean, it's only when the camera's on him.
Yeah, just then. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much in step with you there. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I think we'll do right by Emmanuel Mosley. I think we'll get him back. Mm, and
I feel bad for Mosley because he should have got. I was one to say that they should have re-signed him in the off this past off season
mhm.
and lock him up before the season started because I had a feeling he was going to look really good next to Shavarius Ward,
Yep.
and and now I don't know that he comes back. I don't know that they. I mean, I think that they'll try and bring him back at a cheaper rate. I don't know that he comes back. That I don't know that somebody else doesn't try to throw money at him and he takes a deal elsewhere. Um,
Well, that would be too bad, especially since he was an undrafted free agent too.
but
But
Brendel
I think,
interests me too because
yeah,
Brendel I feel like has been solid.
he's been good in pass protection for sure. My knock was run blocking, but then he got out and had that great block down by the goal
Yeah,
line to help spring Debo in on that reverse.
yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. Yeah, Brunskill, I think, is a free agent too, is another interesting one, just because of his versatility. So he can play all
yeah,
five positions, and he's been pretty cost effective. Very interesting, no doubt about it. Well,
yeah.
we're running up a little over an hour here, so I want to be mindful of your time. I know you need to get out and get some din din with the fam. So
Me time for the
let's,
wife.
yes, happy wife, happy life,
Yep.
and I need to get going here too to take care of my son. It's my time here after 5. It's not like a hard stop, but it's definitely a good idea to keep it in mind.
For sure.
So just to recap, you're at Peter Lucas 8, Niner Fanatic podcast, and give us that rundown of the other shows that you do on a regular basis so that
Yeah.
people know
So I
where to
do.
find you.
I do Last Man Standing on Wednesdays at 7 Pacific time, 7 p.m. Pacific time. I do Ryan Hensley's show. I'm usually on Mondays at 8:15, but his show is every weekday, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Pacific time. So make sure you guys check that out. Ryan Hensley, great guy, great show. And then I'm Nine Fanatic podcast. I'm usually do it Monday or Tuesday, and I have various guests, and then I do one by myself on Sundays, but for usually pregame. And I haven't done one the last couple of weeks because the 49ers schedule has been kind of all over the place. But yeah, like I'm gonna do one this Sunday, so make sure that you guys take a look at that. And then also, if you just don't want to look at my face, and you want to get the audio version, the audio version is anywhere where you can get your audio podcast. It's everywhere. So I don't care where you go get it, just go get it.
Nice, love it. That's kind of a good idea. I
Appreciate you, Ted.
might have to start doing that pod myself. The audio pods myself. That's a good idea. No, I appreciate you coming on. You're welcome back anytime. You did me a favor as a new guy starting out here, so I really appreciate that. If there's ever any way I can help pay you back, don't be shy about asking. You're always welcome to come back on the show, or I'd be happy to come
For
join
sure.
yours, whatever works out best. And otherwise, have a great rest of your day. Go Niners and beat the Saints this weekend.
Go Niners.
Cheers.